Everything collapsed exactly 14 days before I was supposed to get married. My fiancée Rachel had gone off for her bachelorette weekend at some coastal resort with her bridesmaids, while I stayed behind dealing with work projects that couldn't wait. These group trips never appealed to me anyway. We'd been a couple for 4 years, engaged for 12 months, and I genuinely believed we had something solid and real. It was late Thursday evening when I mindlessly scrolled through Instagram before turning in for the night. One of Rachel's bridesmaids, this woman named Jessica, who always drank excessively and said wildly inappropriate stuff at every gathering, had shared something that made my entire world stop. The photo showed the entire bridal party at some beachside bar, clearly hammered, surrounded by cocktails and empty glasses everywhere. Typical bachelorette nonsense, nothing unusual there. But the caption underneath shattered everything I thought I knew about my relationship. Final hookup with her backup dude before she secures the loaded one. This girl knows how to play both sides. She tagged Rachel and 3 other bridesmaids in the post. I sat completely frozen on my couch, reading those words over and over, hoping they'd somehow rearrange themselves into something different, something innocent, some kind of misunderstanding. They didn't. I took a screenshot as fast as my fingers could move because something deep in my gut told me it wouldn't last long. I refreshed the page. Sure enough, when the page reloaded maybe 15 to 20 seconds later, it had completely vanished, like it never existed. But I had the evidence saved permanently on my phone. The loaded one. That's all I represented to her, not someone she actually loved or wanted to build a future with, not her partner or best friend. Just the financially secure option she was locking down for stability and comfort. And here's the thing that really got me. I'm not even wealthy by any reasonable standard. I'm a software engineering manager, pulling in around $160,000 annually. I own my apartment outright, drive a reliable car that's paid off, have decent savings and investments. Comfortable, yes. Secure, absolutely. Loaded? Hardly. Rich? That's a massive stretch by anyone's measure. My first instinct was grabbing my phone and calling her immediately, demanding answers and explanations right then and there. Then, my father's advice echoed somewhere in my mind, something he'd told me years ago after his own painful divorce from my mother. Once you learn the truth, son, pretending you don't know just makes you foolish twice over. Don't give them the chance to gaslight you or talk their way out of it. I didn't call her. I didn't text her. I didn't give her any warning whatsoever about what was coming. Instead, I walked over to my laptop and started systematically working through our wedding arrangements. I'd covered the overwhelming majority of expenses, roughly $45,000 worth of commitments and contracts. Venue rental for the ceremony and reception, complete food service and open bar, professional photography package with engagement and wedding day coverage, live band entertainment, all the flowers and elaborate centerpieces Rachel had insisted on. Rachel had managed decorations and some minor items, maybe $8,000 total of her own money invested. Everything was meticulously documented in our shared planning files, with all vendor contact information readily available and organized in spreadsheets. I spent the next 2 hours methodically emailing every single vendor on our extensive list, with identical messages about changed circumstances requiring immediate cancellation of all services. I requested final invoices per whatever contract terms we'd originally agreed to and signed. While composing these emails, I carefully reviewed each signed agreement to understand exactly what I'd be losing financially. The venue was completely non-refundable at this stage. That was explicitly clear in the contract we'd signed months ago. Catering company would charge 50% of their total contracted cost. Photography service would keep their entire substantial deposit. Same situation with the band and the florist. Deposits were non-refundable. I did the rough math in my head as I went through everything methodically. My losses would land somewhere between $22,000 and $25,000, depending on how individual vendors interpreted the specific cancellation clauses in our contracts. Still significantly cheaper than marrying someone who'd betrayed me and viewed me as nothing more than a comfortable meal ticket to lockdown. Then, I created a public Instagram post that would change everything and blow up both our lives. I tagged absolutely everyone who'd been invited to our wedding, both entire extended families, all our friends, every single person on that 200-person guest list. I posted that screenshot showing Jessica's caption completely clearly with nothing cropped out or hidden. My own caption was deliberately simple and straightforward, no emotions or explanations. Wedding canceled, effective immediately. See image above for the complete explanation. Sincere apologies to everyone who made travel arrangements or purchased gifts from our registry. The bride can clarify anything else you might want to know. I posted it, powered down my phone completely, and actually went to sleep. Weirdly, I slept better than I had in months, maybe years. Like a weight had lifted. When I reactivated my phone Friday morning around 7, it had basically exploded with notifications, calls, texts, voicemails, direct messages. Everything imaginable was flooding in continuously. My Instagram post already had hundreds of comments with people arguing intensely in the threads. I made coffee first, let everything fully load while the machine brewed slowly, then scrolled through the absolute chaos while drinking it calmly at my kitchen table, almost detached from it all. Rachel's mother had left a furious voicemail around midnight, demanding I call her immediately and asking how I dared to humiliate her daughter publicly like this. Didn't I have any decency or respect for their family? Her father's message was shorter but angrier, demanding an immediate, detailed explanation for what he called garbage and lies I'd posted online for the entire world to see. My own mother sounded genuinely confused and concerned, asking if this was actually real. What had happened between us? Was there some kind of mistake or misunderstanding she didn't know about? Rachel herself had left approximately 20 increasingly desperate messages over the course of the night, starting confused and hurt, quickly escalating to angry and accusatory, ending with desperate sobbing and vague threats about consequences I'd face. The most valuable and damning voicemail came from Jessica, the bridesmaid who'd posted the original story that started everything. She'd left it around 3 in the morning, and she sounded absolutely destroyed and obviously drunk out of her mind. Oh God, I'm so sorry. I was completely wasted. That wasn't supposed to go up. It wasn't meant to be posted publicly. It was an inside joke between us girls. You weren't supposed to ever see it. Please don't destroy her entire life over this. She does love you, okay? The backup guy thing is real, but it's not serious at all, just like for fun on the side. Everybody does it these days. It's not a big deal. Please just talk to her, please. I immediately saved that voicemail and backed it up to 3 separate secure locations: cloud storage, my computer hard drive, and an external drive I kept locked away. Rachel's text messages progressed in a completely predictable pattern from "call me right now, we need to talk," to "this is all a huge misunderstanding," to "you're completely insane," to "if you'd just talk to me like an adult, I could explain everything properly." I replied exactly once with a simple, direct message. "Nothing to explain here. We're finished permanently. Don't contact me again." She called 8 consecutive times within 2 minutes, back to back. I blocked her number entirely. Her mother called from a different phone number within the hour. I answered that one and immediately got screamed at full volume about what I'd done to her precious daughter and their family reputation. I explained as calmly as possible that her daughter had cheated on me during our engagement, and I'd ended the relationship permanently. That's all there was to it, pretty straightforward. She insisted loudly that the social media post was just a drunk, stupid joke that went too far and I'd destroyed Rachel's reputation over absolutely nothing, that I was vindictive and cruel beyond measure. I asked her directly why Jessica had deleted the post within 15 seconds if it truly meant nothing, and why she'd left me a detailed voicemail admitting the entire affair. Dead silence on the line for several long seconds. Then she shifted tactics and claimed I had no actual concrete proof of anything, that some stupid drunk caption didn't legally prove infidelity. I calmly mentioned having Jessica's full admission on a saved voicemail and asked if she wanted me to post that audio publicly too for everyone to hear. Longer silence this time. I could hear her breathing. Then came direct threats about making me regret this decision and demands for repayment of every penny, thousands and thousands of dollars they'd spent on this wedding in good faith. I explained I'd already paid $45,000 of my own money and would be losing somewhere around $22,000 in various cancellation fees, that Rachel could keep her expensive dress for all I cared, and they were absolutely welcome to sue me if they felt they had any kind of legitimate case. She called me a vindictive, heartless fool and hung up abruptly. Friday was entirely spent confirming all cancellations with every vendor individually and getting final numbers. Most handled things professionally and sympathetically once they understood the situation. The venue manager actually pulled me aside at one point during our meeting and said quietly that he'd seen my post online and was genuinely sorry about what had happened to me. That was rough. Their standard policy required keeping the full $12,000 deposit with absolutely no exceptions, and that was ironclad in the contract. But he personally wasn't charging the additional substantial cancellation fee specifically outlined in the contract because, in his words, I'd been screwed over enough already and he couldn't bring himself to pile on more financial damage. That small gesture of human decency meant something to me in that moment. The catering company tried aggressively fighting me on their 50% cancellation clause, initially attempting to claim I somehow owed them the entire contracted amount for food and service. I pulled out our signed contract and showed them the exact language we'd both agreed to. They grudgingly backed down to $7,500 after some tense back-and-forth negotiation. Photography service kept their $1,200 deposit, which seemed reasonable given the circumstances. The band kept their $2,000 deposit for holding the date. Florist kept $800 for flowers already ordered. When I sat down and added up the final damage that evening, it totaled approximately $23,500 in lost deposits and various cancellation fees. Still significantly cheaper than what a divorce would have cost me down the road, both financially and emotionally, not to mention the wasted years. Saturday afternoon, Rachel's best friend called my number with what was clearly a planned guilt trip. She claimed Rachel had been crying nonstop for 2 straight days, couldn't eat anything at all, couldn't sleep through the night, and that I'd completely destroyed her as a person. I responded simply that Rachel had destroyed herself through her own deliberate choices and actions. The friend insisted the backup guy wasn't what I thought at all, just some old friend from college Rachel occasionally hung out with in a group, totally innocent and platonic, and Jessica had just made a stupid drunk joke that went way too far. I mentioned Jessica's voicemail explicitly stated otherwise in her own words. She argued I couldn't fairly hold drunk words against people. That wasn't reasonable. I said, "Watch me do exactly that." She shifted tactics completely and asked what Rachel was supposed to do about the $8,000 engagement ring I'd given her last year. I said Rachel could keep it, sell it, pawn it, throw it in the ocean for all I cared, whatever she wanted. Same policy with all the gifts people had already sent from our registry. I wanted absolutely nothing associated with that wedding or that relationship anymore. She called me completely unreasonable and irrational, which was almost darkly funny considering Rachel was actively planning to marry me while sleeping with someone else on the side. She insisted I didn't actually know for certain that Rachel had physically cheated, that I was just making assumptions and jumping to premature conclusions. I pointed out that despite approximately 100 texts and 50 phone calls over 2 days, Rachel had never once explicitly denied cheating on me. She'd said it was a misunderstanding, that I was overreacting and being overdramatic, but never once said the actual words, "I didn't cheat on you," or "I was faithful." The line went completely silent for a long moment. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. I hung up. Sunday morning brought an email from a lawyer her family had apparently hired quickly. They were formally demanding $47,000 in complete reimbursement for all wedding expenses they claimed were incurred in good faith reliance on our marriage actually happening. They listed absolutely everything imaginable in excruciating detail. Her dress and multiple alterations, jewelry pieces, shoes, hair trials, makeup trials, expensive gifts for all the bridesmaids, the entire bachelorette party weekend, bridal shower, professionally printed invitations, elaborate decorations, personalized party favors, you name it, they listed it. They claimed I'd fraudulently induced these expenses through intentional misrepresentation and caused severe emotional distress to their daughter through deliberate public defamation. The legal language was aggressive and threatening throughout. I forwarded the entire email chain to my buddy from law school who now practices family law in our city. He called me back within an hour, literally laughing out loud. He said it was genuinely the funniest and most ridiculous demand letter he'd read all year long. Were they actually serious about this? Dead serious, I confirmed. Also dead wrong legally, he assured me with confidence. Infidelity absolutely constitutes legitimate grounds for ending an engagement in any court in the country. They had no viable case whatsoever. This was completely baseless. What should I do? He offered to respond on my behalf completely pro bono because he found the whole situation highly entertaining from a legal perspective. He'd tell them in proper, fancy legal language to kick rocks and stop wasting everyone's time. But he advised me seriously to keep that voicemail recording in multiple secure locations and meticulously document every single attempt they made to contact me after I'd explicitly told them to stop all communication. Because based on their aggressive behavior patterns so far, this situation would most likely escalate significantly further before it finally got better. Monday morning, Rachel physically showed up at my apartment building unannounced. My doorbell camera caught her approach before I even got to the door to see who was there. She looked absolutely terrible, eyes completely swollen and red from crying, hair disheveled and messy, no makeup at all. She started knocking normally at first, then quickly escalated to pounding hard on the door with her fist, yelling loudly that she knew I was home and we needed to have a real face-to-face conversation right now, that I owed her that much at least. I used the intercom system to tell her there was nothing whatsoever to discuss between us, and she needed to leave my property immediately, or I'd be forced to call the police. She insisted desperately I couldn't just throw away 4 years together like this, like we meant nothing to each other. I said she threw it away through her own actions and choices, not me. Then she finally said the words that confirmed everything I already knew. It was one mistake, one single night. You're really ending everything over one stupid night? There it was. Clear direct admission caught on video camera. I immediately started recording on my phone too, for additional redundancy and backup. I asked directly and clearly if she was admitting she'd cheated on me during our engagement. She backtracked awkwardly, stumbling over her words, suddenly claiming we were basically on a break anyway during that time. I reminded her firmly we were engaged, actively planning our expensive wedding, living together in this apartment up until last month when she moved some stuff to her parents' house temporarily. We were absolutely not on any kind of break by any definition. She called me ridiculous and said, relationships are fundamentally about forgiveness and working through problems, that I was supposed to fight for us, to work through this together like adults. I told her I was supposed to marry someone who actually respects and values me as a person, and that clearly wasn't her anymore if it ever was. I told her to leave my property immediately. She refused outright, saying she wasn't leaving until I talked to her face-to-face like an adult, instead of hiding behind my door like a coward. So I called 911 directly. They arrived within roughly 15 minutes response time. She was still there the entire time, now sitting on the ground outside my door crying loudly and dramatically. The responding officer spoke with her first for several minutes, listening to her side, then came to my door to hear mine. He asked if she was my fiancée, as she claimed. I said were, past tense, that relationship is finished permanently. I explained I'd ended the relationship after discovering infidelity and had told her repeatedly through multiple channels not to contact me anymore, under any circumstances. She showed up at my private residence anyway, refusing to leave. He asked me to show him documentation where I'd explicitly told her not to contact me. I pulled up the text message thread on my phone showing my clear statement. He nodded, reviewed it carefully, then went back to address her. He told her clearly and firmly that I'd asked her not to contact me. She needed to leave immediately. And if she returned to this property, I could file for a formal restraining order through the courts. She protested emotionally that we were engaged and had lived together in this apartment. He calmly informed her that property records showed the apartment was solely registered in my name. She had no legal right to be here without my permission. She finally left, still crying and looking back. That same afternoon, her father appeared at my workplace office building downtown. Building security called my desk, saying someone was downstairs in the lobby demanding to see me, claiming to be my father-in-law. I told them to inform him politely I was unavailable for any meetings today. He refused to leave and was getting increasingly loud and aggressive with the security staff. I went down to the lobby to handle the situation directly before it escalated further. He saw me step off the elevator and immediately started yelling across the lobby, calling me a coward who couldn't face him like a real man. I said calmly there was nothing to face or discuss here, and told him to instruct his daughter to stop all contact attempts permanently. He launched into a rant about how I'd humiliated his entire family publicly, how his wife couldn't show her face at their church anymore without people staring, how his daughter was now on prescription medication because of what I'd done to her mental health. I said that was unfortunate, but not my responsibility or fault. He brought up the many thousands of dollars they'd spent on this wedding and said they'd definitely be suing me for every penny. I said my attorney had already responded to their lawyer's demand letter, and they'd lose badly in court. This was a waste of everyone's time. Security personnel stepped in physically before he could continue, warning him he needed to leave the building immediately, or they'd involve the police for trespassing. He left, but shouted back over his shoulder that this wasn't over, not by a long shot. I'd be hearing from them. By Wednesday, I discovered Rachel had been systematically calling all my friends, trying to control the narrative and turn people against me. My best friend texted asking what the actual real story was, since Rachel had called him 6 separate times over 2 days, claiming I wouldn't listen to her side of things, that she'd made one forgivable mistake, and I was being needlessly cruel and unforgiving, that she was devastated. I sent him both the original screenshot and the voicemail recording from Jessica. His response was immediate and clear. Damn, yeah, you absolutely did the right thing here. I'm blocking her. She'd contacted at least 10 of my close friends with virtually the same carefully crafted sob story. After I showed them the concrete proof of what actually happened, every single one of them blocked her completely. Thursday, my lawyer called with unexpected news that honestly shocked me. They were actually filing a lawsuit against me. I thought he was joking around. Nope, completely serious. Small claims court, exactly $12,000, which was the maximum amount allowed in our jurisdiction. For what exactly? Wedding expenses they claimed I was responsible for. Her dress, her mother's outfit, all bridesmaid costs, bachelorette party expenses, printed invitations, everything. Could they actually win this case? Hell no, absolutely not, he assured me confidently. I had clear legitimate cause to cancel based on proven infidelity, but I had to physically show up in court and defend myself properly. Bring everything, the screenshot, the voicemail recording, and all text messages, complete documentation. Court date was scheduled for 6 weeks out. He told me not to worry at all and that he was definitely coming with me because this was legitimately more entertaining than anything currently on Netflix. That weekend, my Instagram post exceeded 1,000 comments and kept climbing steadily. People were sharing it everywhere across multiple platforms, discussing the situation in exhaustive detail, choosing sides passionately in long comment threads. Some commenters called me heroic for having standards and exposing the truth. Others called me cruel and vindictive for the public humiliation approach. Someone made a TikTok video about the whole situation that got over 300,000 views within days. Rachel's friends launched a coordinated maltreatment campaign from multiple different phone numbers, sending messages calling me human garbage, saying she genuinely loved me and I threw her away like worthless trash, that I'd die alone and miserable, that she was far too good for me anyway and I'd never find better. I blocked every number as they came in. They just kept acquiring new numbers from somewhere. I filed an official police report for ongoing maltreatment and documented everything. The officer who called me back was sympathetic but realistic about the situation, saying to keep detailed records of absolutely everything and call immediately if things escalated to direct threats or if she physically showed up again. But right now, it was technically just annoying maltreatment without actionable threats. Unfortunately, there wasn't much they could do yet. I changed all my social media accounts to private and locked down, blocked her entire extended family, all her friends I knew, anyone who might potentially be a problem going forward. But I deliberately left that original post up and public because it was simply the documented truth of what happened. Court day finally arrived roughly 2 months after everything had initially exploded. Her entire extended family showed up like it was some kind of public referendum. Parents, siblings, grandmother, a couple aunts and uncles I vaguely recognized from family gatherings, like they were providing moral support at a funeral or something. They sat together on one side of the small courtroom. I sat with my lawyer buddy on the opposite side. When our case got called by the clerk, her father stood up as their designated representative since they were the plaintiffs. The judge reviewed the filed paperwork carefully for several minutes, noting aloud they were suing for $12,000 in wedding expenses after I had canceled the ceremony. Her father confirmed this emphatically, emphasizing repeatedly that I'd canceled with less than 2 weeks advance notice after they'd already paid for absolutely everything in good faith based on my promises. His daughter's custom dress alone had cost over $4,000. They'd bought complete outfits, paid for multiple parties, all based entirely on my firm commitment to marry their daughter. The judge asked directly why I had canceled the wedding so close to the date. Her father visibly hesitated, clearly uncomfortable, then said there'd been a disagreement, a personal private matter between us. The judge pressed for specific details about what kind of disagreement exactly. He insisted his daughter's private personal life shouldn't be publicly discussed in an open courtroom. The judge leaned forward and repeated the question more firmly about why exactly the wedding was canceled. My lawyer stood confidently and stated clearly for the record that I discovered through social media evidence that my fiancé had been unfaithful during our engagement, and we had concrete documentation to support this claim. He handed over copies of both the screenshot and the complete voicemail transcript to the judge. The judge took several minutes to read through both pieces of evidence carefully and thoroughly, then looked directly at her father with a serious expression, stating plainly and factually that his daughter had been cheating during the engagement. Her father insisted desperately it was just a joke, a drunk bridesmaid making a stupid joke that got completely out of hand and meant nothing. The judge pointed directly at the voicemail transcript in his hand and noted it clearly showed the bridesmaid explicitly admitting it wasn't actually a joke at all. Her father argued weakly she'd been heavily intoxicated when she left that message. It wasn't reliable. The judge asked the question directly and clearly for the record. Was his daughter cheating on the defendant? And did he genuinely believe the defendant should have married her anyway and paid for an expensive wedding to someone who was being unfaithful during the engagement? Her father said I didn't have to humiliate their entire family by posting it publicly for the world to see, that his daughter had required professional therapy because of my public actions, that I'd destroyed her reputation. The judge responded firmly that if his daughter didn't want people knowing about her behavior and choices, perhaps she shouldn't have engaged in that behavior in the first place. Case dismissed. Her father tried protesting loudly about all the money they'd spent in good faith. The judge cut him off sharply. Case dismissed, next case, we're done here, sit down. Outside the courthouse afterward, her mother cornered me aggressively in the parking lot, getting right in my face. She demanded to know if I was satisfied now with destroying her daughter. I said honestly, pretty much, yeah. She went on about how Rachel was on prescription antidepressants, specifically because of what I'd done to her. That she'd had to quit her job because of the stress and humiliation, was living back at home with them, and I'd completely ruined her entire future and any prospects. I said Rachel ruined her own future through her own choices and actions. Her mother insisted everyone makes mistakes in relationships, that I was supposed to be the bigger person and forgive like adults do. I pointed out I was being the bigger person by letting her keep the expensive engagement ring, all the registry gifts, everything. By not countersuing for the extensive maltreatment campaign. By just walking away completely clean. Her sister suddenly got directly in my face, aggressively saying I was going to regret this decision, that no decent woman would ever want me after seeing how I treated Rachel, that everyone knew I was vindictive and cruel and it would follow me. My lawyer actually laughed out loud at that statement. He told her directly I'd gotten approximately 50 direct messages from women online saying they respected a man with actual standards and integrity, so I'd probably be just fine in the dating department. That wasn't entirely accurate, but I wasn't about to correct him in the moment. We walked to our cars and left, while her family stood there in the parking lot looking like they were actively planning their next attack move, which, it turned out, they absolutely were already working on. 3 weeks after the court victory, Rachel started an online blog. Multiple people started messaging me about it with links. The title was My Story, Recovering from Public Humiliation, with her carefully crafted version of events. She claimed she'd never actually cheated on me at all, that the bridesmaid's post was just an inside joke I'd deliberately weaponized to hurt her, that I'd cynically used social media as a weapon to systematically destroy her reputation and life, that I'd stolen months of her life and tens of thousands of dollars from her family for nothing. She was now in intensive therapy for severe depression and anxiety directly caused by my vindictive actions. The comments section was overwhelmingly sympathetic to her. Poor girl. Cruelly betrayed by her vindictive ex. Some people were actually calling for me to be doxxed and publicly maltreated as revenge. My lawyer read through the entire blog carefully and shrugged casually. It was all opinion and her perspective, nothing legally actionable here. Just let it go and ignore it. I protested that she was lying about literally everything that happened. He said she knew that, I knew that, I had documented proof. She was just trying to save face publicly and control the narrative. Anyone who actually mattered in my life already knew the complete truth. Let her have this small thing. The blog went semi-viral within days. Local bloggers picked it up and wrote response pieces. Some lifestyle influencers shared it widely with their followers. I started receiving hate messages from complete strangers who believed her version. Someone found my LinkedIn profile and messaged my boss directly, claiming I was an abuser, and the company should be aware of my character issues. My boss called me into his office about the strange message. I explained calmly my ex was having her supporters systematically maltreat me as retaliation. He said he'd figured as much based on the tone and they weren't taking any of it seriously at all. But HR wanted everything officially documented for our company records, just in case this escalated legally. I showed HR absolutely everything I had. The original screenshot, the voicemail recording, the court dismissal, all maltreatment reports filed with police. The HR director reviewed everything carefully and confirmed it was clearly retaliatory maltreatment. She said if anyone else contacted the company about this, they'd be referring it directly to our legal department for handling. The blog mysteriously disappeared after about 6 weeks online, with no explanation, just completely gone one day. But the damage was already done to my online reputation. Googling my full name brought up numerous articles about the canceled wedding scandal, various think pieces debating whether I was justified or cruel, lengthy debates about public shaming in the social media age and cancel culture. My Instagram post remained up, now with almost 2,000 comments. People were still finding it months later, still sharing it, still arguing passionately in the comments section. I seriously considered taking it down to move on. My lawyer strongly advised against it, saying it was my primary evidence, the documented truth, and the second I deleted it, she'd claim I'd fabricated everything for attention. So it stayed up permanently. 4 months after the canceled wedding, I ran into Rachel at a local coffee shop completely by chance. We made direct eye contact across the room. She immediately looked away and turned her back to me. I grabbed my coffee order and left quickly without saying anything. Heard through mutual friends she was dating someone new, some guy from her workplace, supposedly taking it slow and careful this time. Good for her, honestly. I genuinely hoped it worked out better for both of them. I started dating again myself after about 6 months of being single. Met someone named Lisa at a friend's summer barbecue. She was an elementary school teacher, genuinely funny and smart, easy to talk with about anything. On our third date over dinner, she brought up the elephant in the room, asking directly if that viral post about the canceled wedding was actually me. I confirmed it was and told her the complete, honest story, showed her all the evidence I still had. She was quiet for a minute, thinking, then said, "It must have been really hard to go through." It was, I admitted honestly, but so much better than discovering it after we were legally married with shared assets. She noted I didn't technically have to post it publicly, though. That seemed extreme. I explained I wasn't going to let Rachel control the entire narrative and make me the bad guy. She made the choice to cheat. I made sure people knew whose choice it actually was and why the wedding ended. Lisa nodded slowly and said she genuinely respected that I have real standards and won't compromise them. We're still together now, over a year later, and getting serious. She's never given me a single reason to doubt her or question her loyalty. Rachel got engaged again to a different guy about a year after our breakup and got married in some small courthouse ceremony with just immediate family. Heard about it through the grapevine from mutual friends. I genuinely hope it works out better for her this time around. The Instagram post is still up. I'm probably leaving it up forever at this point. It's simply the documented truth of what happened. People still comment occasionally, still the most justified cancellation ever, or this man saved himself from disaster, or dodged a bullet. My absolute favorite comment came from someone who wrote, "This isn't revenge, this is self-defense." That pretty much sums up the entire situation perfectly. I lost about $25,000 in deposits and various fees, but gained my self-respect back and dodged a lifetime with someone who saw me as nothing more than a comfortable wallet to secure worth every single cent I lost.